Hi everyone. In this video, I'm just going to show you exactly how to set up your JIRA correctly for INF 370. So first things first, you'll see the spaces section in which you will create Kanban boards for each and every single iteration that you have from 1 to 7. Yes, you don't need to create one single Kanban board for all your iterations. You'll create a separate one for each iteration, much like you did last year, most probably, I hope, for each of your deliverables. So to create a new space, because these are mine from when I created them last year, you click on Create Space. And from there, the template that you should choose is Kanban, as that is the template or the type of workspace that we mock for you and that you ideally should work with. So select Kanban, and from there select Use Template. After that, you'll obviously see these two options, and the type of managed Kanban board you should select for your space is team managed space, because of course you're a 5-member team, not a company. So click on that, and then from there you can obviously name your space. I usually went with naming it after each iteration that we were currently in, and then just adding my team system name to the end of it. But you can name it however you want, so long as it's easy and clear to see which iteration the Kanban board is for. In this case, we can go with iteration example. Over here, our space is managed. Okay, keep that as team managed. Of course, don't change it. Just leave it like that. And then in your key, you can name your key however you like. If your system has an abbreviation or an acronym, then you can add that there. Ours was TAPS, so I would usually, just enter in TAPS. But you can name it however you like. So in this case, we can name it, it's E0, or iteration example, whichever one works for you. Then you can click on next. And on this daily work section, the only one you'll really need is task. So if you see that selected, just leave it selected and deselect any other option that's been selected for you already and just leave task. After that, you can click on next. And okay, the same applies here. The only statuses that you'll really need are to do, in progress, and done. So if you already only have those three when you are creating your space for your iterations, you can leave it as is and click on create space. But if you have more options such as idea or testing or whatever else, just delete them because it's very unlikely that you'll use them. So once that's done, click on create space, and from there you're gonna have to invite your team. As you can see, mine already pre-populates with my team members from last year for 370. So in this case, of course, you just need to enter in the emails of all your group members, as well as me and Christopher as your INF 370 ALs, because we're the ones that need to mark your project management. So you can enter in, our emails are of course in the description of the 370 group, the 370 WhatsApp group. So you can obviously add it in. You can enter in our emails as normal. No. Right. And you can just click on that just so it saves as that. You can click on this, whatever. If your team was already on JIRA, then it's easy to just select them from the drop-down menu that appears. Either way, you just need to make sure to add everybody. After that, you click on next, and you'll be redirected to this screen where you need to connect your JIRA to your Confluence. Now, if you remember correctly, Confluence is where you create your meeting notes, and this is just the option to link it to your JIRA so that you can instantly just create meeting notes in your JIRA instead of having to log into Confluence each and every time. So if you already have your existing Confluence space, you can just click on Connect Space. Just remember, type in the name that you made for that space, whether it's, 370 project or whatever it may be. I saved mine as, of course, my name. So I click on that, and that's fine. If you don't have a Confluence space, do go sign up or log in and then create the space. And then as you're creating your Kanban project management board for the iteration you're working on, just connect it here when you see this option. And then you're pretty much done with that. So once all of that is done, you click on Done. And you can click on Go to Space. And from there, you'll be redirected to your newly created space. Awesome. Now, to create tasks and subtasks for each use case or assigned thing that you have to do for your iterations, I suggest that you go to the list view, because it's easier to create tasks as well as to assign members, make due dates, and all of that good stuff. So click on the list view over here, and the view will change for your space. And from there, you can see that there's a little button called Create over here. So just click on that. And something to note is that if you see this purple lightning bolt that you most probably will see when you first create the space and create your first task, I suggest that you change it. It's called an epic. You change it from that by clicking this drop down to a task. With a task, it's easier to create subtasks and obviously create assignees for those top subtasks and due dates for those subtasks as well. So just click on task, and from there, whatever new task you create will keep to this option. When you're creating your first task, you can make it whatever you want. Good one that you're probably doing for iteration 1 is project proposal. All right, there you go. There's your first task. And something that you should note is that on the right over here, you'll see assignee, status, and due date. So the first thing you have to make sure you do for each task you create and subtask, which I'll show you how to create in a moment, is to assign a task to each of your group members. Always, always, always assign a task to each of your group members, just so that we can keep track of who had to do what, as well as you also being able to keep track of who had to do what. So create an assignee for each task you create, and then whenever that assignee changes the status of the task that they were given, of course, you as the reporter, whoever that may be in the group, will get an update or an email for when it's marked as done. All right. So always remember that once a task is done, you have to go to the status and mark it as done. And then on the very far end, you can see the due date. Please always add due dates. It's very necessary. You could lose marks if you don't add due dates to each of the tasks you have, and we can check very easily. All right, next up is creating a subtask. So to create a subtask, just click on this little plus icon or child item. Just click on it and you'll be able to create one. A project proposal subtask could be like, I guess, introduction, hypothetically. There we go. Oh, I spelled that wrong. There. Then you click on create. And as you can see, what you can do with a normal task, you can also do with a subtask. So let's say if this is the project proposal, overall, it could be given to another member to just check, and then the person that's in charge of the introduction could have it assigned to them, and then the person has to check it can have this part assigned to them. It's really up to you and your group and how you guys want to split the work. If all of it belongs to one person, you can of course assign them all to one person. It doesn't matter. But if you feel like, okay, if it's enough work to have it split into 2 sections, then okay, you have to remember to assign the subtasks to people or the child tasks to people as well, as you could lose marks for that if you don't. And then in regards to iterations 2, 3, 4, and onwards, that's when you're actually going to be dealing with use cases. Now, the way that we're gonna mark your use cases or your use case, well, your iteration one, your two, in regards to how we're gonna mark this, the project management for your iteration two onwards, it's gonna be by use case because each use case has specific diagrams that you have to do for each use case you have. So if you have 30 use cases, you're gonna have 30 main tasks over here. So for example, the first one will be 1.1 login, and you don't have to copy this depending on whichever 1.1 use case you have and what name it has. You don't have to make it login necessarily. It's just the most typical. You can click on create. And then since login has multiple diagrams that you need to make for it, you're gonna need to create some, here it is. You're gonna need to create some subtasks for it so you can keep track of all of those diagrams. So click over here, and one of the types of diagrams you're gonna have to do, or let's see. Well, one of the diagrams is an activity diagram. Here we go. So create a task for that, well, a subtask for that. And then another thing you're gonna need is your use case narrative, right? And so on and so forth. So you're gonna have to do this for each and every single use case that you find or create in your requirements list. For things that don't have use cases or diagrams that don't have use cases, you can simply create a task such as context diagrams, right, as your main task. And then within that, you can create childs for each subsystem, since those are a lot bigger. And you can actually split those amongst your group members a lot more evenly. So you could have like a user subsystem. There, somebody has, well, context. Be a little more specific. Can't spell. All right, there we go. And you can do that for all the other subsystems. So that way, the person maybe who needs to compile all the context diagrams will be the assignee for the context diagrams overall, but the person that has to do the user subsystem context diagram is assigned this subtask. That way it's still easy to see who had to do what within your group. All right, that's more or less the gist of it. You can obviously do what you want for these, but for the use cases, this is the pattern or the template that you should really follow, or else you will most likely lose marks. Yeah, and it's also the best way for you as a group to keep track of all the diagrams that you have to do. All right. So the next thing you need to make note of is how to make or upload proofs for each of your docs. So it's gonna be a bit tedious, but that's just how we have to do it. So if you see, look at this arrow over here for login. If you click on it to open the work item, then it'll redirect you to the, the specific tasks, details, and all that good stuff. So, here we go. Just give it a second, I think. Here. All right. So now you can see the login main task in more detail, and you can of course see its subtasks. Now, when you want to upload proofs for this login use case, you're gonna have to either click on this plus and what did we do? Well, you can add an attachment. There we go. That was the option. And of course, then you can be able to access your file explorer and upload the diagrams for the login use case. So if all your diagrams are in this sheet, for example, well, this section of your file explorer, just highlight all of them and insert them in. All right. What happened? Just took me out. Come on, give me a second. Technical difficulties. All right, there we go. You could either do it by just uploading it into the description over here or uploading it to the login. Either way, it doesn't matter so long as we would be able to see it either in the description, copy paste it in, or insert it into this description or add it as an attachment. And then you don't have to necessarily add it or upload proof for each diagram directly into its subtask. You can rather just pile them up in here. That way we can just see all of them. If it's 5 different diagrams that you have to do, we can just see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cool. And you're free to go about your day. For the use case narrative, you can just attach the PDF of your use case narrative or send it as a, or attach it as a Word doc. Either way, it's fine, so long as we see it provided as proof. All right. And last but not least, in regards to your meeting minutes, since you remember, if you remember correctly, I told you about how to connect your Confluence to your JIRA. So in order to access it now, you just need to click on Pages. Give it a second. There we go. And on this screen, you'll be able to see the space that you linked your JIRA to. And whenever you want to create a new set of meeting notes, you can just go to the popular templates section over here and click on meeting notes. And hopefully it loads. Awesome. And there we go. So of course, when you load up the meeting notes template, you'll see obviously the date and, well, this is the date. This is more so a label. I suggest keep this just so you can keep track of how many meetings you had and all of that good stuff. And then you can add another label or be more descriptive of what kind of meeting it is. If it's just a general meeting with you and your team, you can just leave it as date meeting notes. But if it's, say, with your client or with one of the professors or us, you can label it, of course, as client. Oh, yeah. Client meeting notes or consult meeting notes for that date. All right, and then next up is participants, where you can tag or at other members. So you can be like at whoever, you can at me or your group members or anything like that. Cool. You can also tag either me or Christopher if you had a consultation meeting with one of us, since we do also have access to your JIRA. Then you can insert goals for the meeting. You can add what to brainstorm, or you don't have to add anything here. What you do need to provide to us is, of course, the discussion topics. So the time you started the meeting, the topic that you're about to discuss and the details of it. And then if you want to add in more rows, you can just click on a cell and then click on the drop down button. And from there you can click on add row below. Or you can click on clear cell or delete column, delete row. There's a bunch of options available to you. Cool. Then down here, these two are basically summaries of what you discuss over here. So if during this meeting you discussed that, oh, team member A needs to continue, needs to finish off 2 more use case narratives, then you add it here. So-and-so needs to complete the remaining 2 of their use case narratives. And then decisions, it can be something like, the team has decided to remove use case 5.3, 6.2, and na because it's redundant or. And then down here you can just create a table with some sign off, just so that whichever team members, because we don't have to provide, you don't have to ask as far as signatures or anything. Whoever the team members were that were involved in this meeting, they can just put a little signature there, name, surname, student number, signature, just to like acknowledge that they were all in attendance in that meeting, and then you can just copy paste it as you go along in meetings. Awesome. And then once you click close, if you click close on a meeting you're making, as the person that made the meeting notes or started on this draft, it'll save as a draft, which means that only you, as the creator of it, can see it and access it. Only once you click publish will it be available for view to your other team members as well as to us. So always remember to click on publish whenever you're done with meeting notes. If you still need to update it or add more details that you're not quite sure of or whatever, you can always just come back and update it. That's perfectly fine. All right. I hope this was helpful. If you do still have more questions or you're still confused about things, of course, you can just book consultations. We are still obviously always available according to when our schedule allows it. And yeah, hope that helped.